me, Indy Rose from Let Me Slap You There. I just wanted to jump on. I'm been completely not very well for the last week with this delicious little germ that's going around. So I put a post out yesterday regarding what I see on the Charlie Kirk incident when he gets hit. And I think given the messages and the comments that I've had, I just wanted to jump on just to explain my point of view just that little bit more, because I feel that I'm not in the camp of there's an exploding mic. I've never really been there, and I've not really paid much attention to the explosiveness within Charlie. I looked at it at the beginning and then kind of moved on from there to focus more on drones and cause. So I'm back on the Charlie Kirk, kind of sat in his chair doing his thing, and this is why I believe there's no exploding microphone. In fact, I believe there isn't anything external that's caused the implosion, the internal damage. So I'm hearing about this Rode mic and different things that are going on that cause this movement through the t-shirt. I've been really good this time. I've actually put things down. I've written down and brought my own kind of research stuff with me, which I usually am kind of like boom off the bat. But I know that my mind is kind of half in, half out. So let me break down what it is that I see. Just chucking a little bit more sauce on it for everyone to understand where it is that I'm coming from. And then I'm going to break down what it is that I see, or what it is that we all see on there, and why it couldn't possibly be an external explosion or electrocution, or any of the other theories that are out there that has actually caused Charlie to have this explosive kind of look about his physical body. So when Charlie sat there, you can see that he is turned ever so slightly to the left when he is talking. When the projectile, for me, my hypothesis from the drone, comes in, it hits thereabouts, just down towards the collar, because he is slightly turned down. That when he begins to come back through to the center, this is why the wound kind of moves through the neck, because the skin has turned with Charlie. With this in mind, when he is sat there and he says violence, counting or not counting gang violence, and when the microphone starts to go down, you'll see this projectile going into Charlie's neck. When this goes in, you can see that underneath of his chin, underneath of his throat, kind of tense. The mouth starts to go a little bit tighter, and the left eye droops, and then it drops, and then the right eye follows. This is very indicative of trauma to the left-hand side of the neck, and this is why his left hand and his left arm looks like it's got bruising on there as well. It's an asymmetric damage to the nerves in that region which controls the eyelids. With this, whether it be one of the facial nerves, whether it be the nerves controlling the eyelids, this oculosympathetic movement through this path, it really disrupts everything, and this trauma can be seen in this like split millisecond of this tensing. You can see Charlie's head come around to the right, and this is because the damage that has been done is beginning to create edema, move through the body, the water, the fluids. The trauma begins to move through all the tissues. It'll go down his arm, into his hand, which will cause some swelling. It will go into the head, which is why we see his body move in such a way that the chin comes down, because all the swelling has gone towards the back of the head. During this time, we have the chain doing its thing, where it's going in kind of, it seems to go in like the opposite direction, which would be really right, that where Charlie was turned towards the left and this projectile has hit the chain, it would have hit it in such a way that it would have created a force which would have pushed this part of the chain this way, the front down and out, and it would have hit in such a way that this part of the chain, the back of the chain, wouldn't have received so much of the kinetic transference. When this happens, so just shifting slightly into the chain part of things, when this happens, the chain doesn't actually kind of fall down or fall in any way. the energy moves through the chain, which brings it up. It creates this wave-like effect, so that as it begins to move up, it's also beginning to move around at the same time. So it's being pulled through the pendants, which then get lassoed kind of up in towards the collar, which you can see, I think, perhaps the top of the cross. I'm not sure if that's just the top of the cross or maybe the little circle pendant that's in there as well, that then comes down. I think, and I've not looked at it very closely, it comes out of the top, but the cross and the shield definitely follow underneath. That when you put on the negative or the inverted colors, you can see the cross drop down, come across and lift up that right hand side collar in area, and then it kind of comes down across, and you can see the shape of this move down in towards the lower part of Charlie's abdomen. Down there as well, I did show in one of the videos, it does look like there's like the 3 iPhone circles. So if you could have a little look at that, and because I know there's been much discussion that we couldn't really see where Charlie's phone was. So that would be quite curious if it was down in his waistband, and that when he kind of flew up and flew back, that you could see the little 3 circles of an iPhone through his t-shirt. So this is why the chain acts like it does. It flips across, but at the same time it's moving, think of it more like a snake movement that is being pushed across and pulled at the same time, because the way that this projectile is hit is kind of caused this push effect there, but is also created, with that push, has created a pull, so then it begins to draw through. But the majority, in my opinion, is that the kinetic energy is dropped down into the chain and pushed it up, which then slides it across in this loop effect that goes down into the arm. And then as it whips around, because it's now then being pulled with a whip, so it's, oh, I'm pulling my hair, that is not just the recoil, it's now becoming a whip, that it then grabs onto the t-shirt sleeve and pulls up. Now this is all simultaneous to everything else that's going on, so it looks like it should be broken down separately, but when you look at the movement, and if you look at the shapes in the fabric, you can actually see with the path that this chain has kind of followed all the way around. When it begins to whip and not recoil, so it recoils this far and then it begins to whip, the weight then comes through, that the chain drops down, and where it's been split, I think one of the links, and you can see it in the footage as well, has actually caught onto Charlie's collar, and that this is why the chain doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't fall off, it just languishes, because then he's going with that kind of inertia, he's moving backwards, and I think he's caught between his head and the shoulders, he's gone back, is caught the chain, so it's stayed there with that kind of intention as well. So these kind of reactions wouldn't happen with an explosion, an external explosion. It is the damage that's been done to the journey in of the projectile into the neck, severing the facial nerves and moving in with that kind of ocular sympathetic, as I said earlier, pathway where it works with, they're supposed to kind of go, no, that's, let them ignore my hands, they're supposed to kind of close together the eyes. So if there was an explosion, there would be more of a unilateral movement rather than there being the droop of the left eye and then the right. In which the bruising turns up, the bruising on Charlie's arm, this has been caused by the nervous system making changes to the way in which it's trying to recover. So we go into shock, the body goes into recovery mode, and kind of send all the energy to the main systems of the body, so like your heart, your liver, and all the things to keep you alive, maybe to your appendages as well, so that you can run for the adrenaline. But once that has happened, once there's been that explosive transfer of kinetic energy, once there's been the fluid, the edema that's gone through to the tips of the fingers, mainly it would be on the left-hand side as well, because that's the side of the trauma. When that begins to move out, when that leaves the physical body, you'll find that that uprightness was right for a little second, because again, the body is kind of thinking, well, you know, what are we doing? What is happening here? What systems are go? That then as he begins to move back, that's why he loses the muscle tone and releases the microphone as he goes in. You can also see through the facial changes as well, that how loose the jaw then goes after being so tight. You can see that there's this release that and yeah, now we're going to get into the graphic part. I try to avoid this bit as much as possible. But at some point after the explosion, so after everything is explosion, the explosive kinetic energy transfer into all the tissues and into all the cells, that's pressed up to the back of the head, why the chin comes down, everything swells, the neck, the head, the arm. It does move on to the right hand side as well, but if you look at the footage, you can see that it is majority left, because that's the left hand side. That then all that energy has to go somewhere, which is why then that little tiny pinprick that the dart traveled in, that's where it's all going to start to come back out. And with this as well, let me just check the word for it first, because I don't want to say the wrong word. Let me just have a quick nose here, sorry. Where is the word? We talk about the other stuff now. With the wound, you'll get this little, it looks like a tail that's coming out of the wound that I'm trying to say. I'm quite sure it is tailspin, but I will get to that in a sec. But that's how you know that there's been something go in, because that little tail comes out of that wound. And with the high velocity projectile as well, when it hits the neck, creating that temporary cavity that stretches around the tissues and ruptures all the capillaries, large amount of blood, which is what we see then that is in a very violent, explosive fashion, that the skeletal muscle fibers and all the rest of it, they can swell up, from what I've learned, 5 times bigger almost immediately, because from the energy transfer. And what happens then is that where the muscles expand, if you know anything about like the ADP and ATP and things with the muscles and the bones, when this happens in this straight kind of movement, then you get this influx of calcium into your system as well. That's for another video. That's more medical knowledge than this. So I've got to try to keep myself on track. I will kind of waffle off onto a different subject. So I'm just like, burp, burp, park your topic. And she's back in the room. So yeah, so this calcium influx into the damaged cells, fluid, all that blood needs to come out from somewhere. And unfortunately, this is what we've witnessed on the video, that the pressure waves move through the fluid-rich tissues of the arm and the hand at the site of the impact, causing that rapid swelling. So I don't know if anybody's noticed that his hand really, it does look like it like doubles in size. This is why we get the look that there's got a lot of damage to it. There's tissue necrosis, which is what happens when you get this traumatic instant spread of the cells, when you get this influx of fluid and tissue damage. When it begins to go out, when the pressure begins to drop, the deflation then is left with this look, which is why it's called like necrosis, because it means that the cells in that area have died. There are processes then that if the person should survive, that there are processes then that the physical body knows what to go through to produce certain hormones and things to be able to go through the cell repair and regeneration. And depending upon the injury, certain hormones then will be created or not created, or should be created and they're not there. And this is then when you end up then with certain lifelong wounds that are visible for everyone to see for the rest of your life. However, the loss of volume, so the internal tissue, so the muscle and the fat, is blown it up and then it goes back down. The loss of muscle, so I'm just going back to my notes as well. The muscle mass and the fluid leaves the arm and the hand looking thin and scrawny. And the right hand side then will look, you know, kind of okay. It hasn't taken the damage as much as the left would have. And so with this depleted, energyless kind of part of the body. This is why it looks bruised, battered, and just it leaves you thinking, what else could it be? And so this is why when everybody's had their theories and all the rest of it, I knew kind of what I felt had happened in my mind, but it wasn't my focus at that time for what I was looking into. So I've left this part of it alone because I just knew where I was at. I would read what other people had thought and put out there, and in my mind, with the kind of the background and the knowledge that I have, I couldn't make it fit. But it wasn't right. It wasn't my time to talk about those things at that time. So electrocution. If he was electrocuted, I don't quite know from what. He couldn't from the microphone. The water was in bottles. The fan was battery powered, I believe. So, you know, there's this. But then also there would be such a massive, violent disruption of cellular integrity that on a different level, so, and the skin would appear wrinkled, there would be more like this shrink wrapped kind of look. Yeah, it would be that it would look a little bit bruised and it would have the mottling and the colouring, but realistically, it normally has like this, what's the word? If there's electrocution, generally, because it takes away the integrity, the structural support of the muscles and the fat. So then that's why you get that kind of moving through. I should have really looked at my notes again. You see arborescent tree-like patterns of broken vessels into the skin, the actual kind of veins and the pathways through the body, through the hands. So then let me just discuss the drone and why I'm convinced that it's a drone. It is not a gun, it's not a different delivery service. So a projectile, it would have to be of a certain velocity to even have any sort of influence onto the chain. And I can provide the math for this as well. So this is why I'm looking at this stuff as well, because I'm checking my numbers at the same time. I'm like, right, did you really do what you said you've done? Energy kinetic over half of math squared. I'm like, right, let me think about this a minute. Okay, so yeah, I can provide the math for the chain, the cavitation and kind of the vaporization of the tissues. The neurological anomalies, we've covered this. So the left-hand side disrupts the oculosympathetic pathway, the facial nerves, which gives you the one eyelid, then the other. The tensile strength is exceeded with the chain. And he was hit before we even know this. So when you watch the footage back, have a look, just slow it down, slow it all down. And as soon as they're counting or not counting gang violence, and as soon as he takes that microphone down, for me, I can see something going into his neck straight away. And he immediately, he winces first, and then his shoulder kind of kicks up a little bit, and the left eyelid, then the right eyelid kind of creates this reflective response, which you wouldn't get with an explosion. There would be something different going on, something different happening with electrocution as well. It would affect different nerves, different parts of your physical being. So it would have to be something that would affect the muscles, the nerves, that would create that that look, what it is that we can see. I'm not stating anything that's not there for anyone to see, and that you can kind of go and run it through yourself. Tail splash, it was called. What did I call it? A tailspin. I feel like I'm in a tailspin. Tail splash and cavitation physics. Yeah. Oh, okay. I promise I'm going to get better. So yeah, so they create a temporary cavity so that, you know, it moves through, it creates this neurological movement. So with an electronics explosion, i.e. microphone battery, there's going to be a gas, hang on a minute, That's a bit spooky. Leave that there. There's going to be a gas detonation event that primarily causes surface level burns, and shrapnel from the casing, the blast wave injuries would be evident. They would be kind of, you would just see this, the markings, the singeing on the body as well. And something that is explosive in an electrical thing, it wouldn't make like an entry wound or an exit wound. It would just make a wound, if that makes sense. A microphone battery in general anyway lacks the kinetic and mass energy to create such a deep and subsurface injury that would work through expanding and then collapsing. So they would be the going in, not visible, coming out trauma, leaving from the body, from the inside neck tissue. So the Rode mic doesn't fit into that narrative. They wouldn't be able to produce that kind of injury, wouldn't be able to produce that kind of result. In my opinion, you may have other research, so don't shout at me. I've just looked into this as I can, and these are the things that I'm saying. I'm not trying to make it fit into mine. I'm just trying to see what can fit with what I'm actually seeing. Then you've got the neurological asymmetry, and then what would be a blunt blast. So the microphone exploding near the chest or the face would create generalized trauma, but it wouldn't produce a specific, as I just said, localized wound. I'm reading my notes. I've already just said the stuff. Oh my God. So, but listen, so the projectile proof is that there's asymmetric eyelid closure, the left eye shutting first, and then the mouth tightening, classical signs of this disruption to the oculosympathetic pathway and facial nerves on the left-hand side. The way that it blows up and increases the size of the appendages, and then how everything, all that trauma leaves in such a violent fashion as well. It's not like he just started bleeding. It left his body as violently as it looked, as it occurred. So then with the mic, blast from would generally cause bilateral. So as I said, it would cause both eyelids doing the same thing. Damage due to the acoustic shock and the heat, rather than specific paralysis caused by a projectile which went in and damaged the sympathetic tract. So there's not anything in the wound and the visible reactions that would be supported by any blunt force explosion or blast. Okay, so the snap of the chain requires a massive chain transfer of momentum. Again, I have the math to work with this as well, that the energy transferred so fast exceeds the chain's tensile strength instantly. So you're either nicking it, or the outwards movement as he's going imploding, as he's going inwards, may have affected this with some sort of maybe shockwave. I don't know. The mic explosion is a multi-directional release of gas. It would likely push the chain away, or in fact kind of become melted onto or melt it as well, if it's going to get that hot to be able to cause an explosion. But it lacks a focused high acceleration vector required to be able to make that kind of snap in a metal chain, and especially since the snap happened up onto the neck. If you look at the length of the chain and the way that it moves, the snap didn't happen here and it didn't happen there, because there would have been more chain at the back. You can see that the initial part of the break of the chain is actually very small at the back, and the length of the chain, which causes the recoil and then the whip, this is why you get that kind of violent throwback after it's already kind of done that lickety-split movement underneath the fabric. It does take some slowing down to be able to notice this, and the wave effect that the chain leaves inside the fabric, but those milliseconds can be slowed down quite a lot, and you will be able to see it and notice the pathway, the journey of the chain. So we have the tail splash, the physics for the cavitation. The mic has been refuted in this way, that it wouldn't have the mass and the kinetic energy. We have the neurological asymmetry and the blunt blast kind of comparison where there isn't anything that the mic could do to cause what it is that we can actually see. And then the chain snap and the energy transfer, same thing there, that a blast wouldn't create that kind of violent velocity. Again, just my opinion, just my research. If you have something else, if you have other proof, and I don't want to see like 99 different experiments to make it work. It's like, let's see what we can do. We need, it's the same like with the Tyler Robinson thing, is that, oh yes, he's a marvelous shot, darling. It's like, that motherfucker is supposed to run up onto the roof, drop down, boom, got up and gone. And then you've got all these professional ballistics people saying like, let me show you what a 30-06 can do. And it's like, right, I don't give a shit about what that bullet can do. I want to see you recreate the jump up, fix your gun together, crawl across the roof, boom, take the shot, wrap it, run away. That's the one that you want to be doing, not the, this is what a 30-06 can do. You want to be showing that that's something that I can't do. We don't have guns in my country in that way, so we don't, which is quite unfortunate actually, because I used to be pretty good with a gun as a kid, as in like just like a piddly little tutu and things. But you guys got the best stuff over there. So try that. Get yourself either something weighted lengthwise if you've got a Mauser, if you managed to be able to get one. Practice. Nothing. Just do it, because that kid probably didn't have the opportunity to practice doing this kind of James Bond move. So I'd be really, really interested to watch someone do a video on the gun being dismantled and then carrying said weapon to a point where you're just going to put it together. But I want you to be somewhere where you're going to try to not be seen by other people. No, just do the experiment, don't worry. And then I want you to kind of clear a distance, lie down, crawl, 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 boom, hit your target first time. But at the same time, you also need to then, as soon as you've pulled the trigger, you also need to be getting to your feet. Because that's the only way the timing on those videos is ever going to work out. Because by the time the gun sound has been played, or let's play devil's advocate, the gun's been fired, the person on the roof is on the feet. And the person on their feet is like kind of, they've already kind of made great strides with, it could be a cape, but no is now a cheek rest of a towel. So, yeah, do that video. If you know anybody that does anything with ballistics and whatnot, don't worry about showing me what that bullet can do, because you only got to look at the bullet to be like, shit, that is going in more than kind of yay far and causing tissue damage. That is blowing the shit out the side. I don't care about magic bullets. I don't care if you've shot a pig and it's gone like XYZ. I want to see someone get a gun, put it together, crawl down, make sure it is locked and loaded and whatnot. Boom, take the shot. You haven't got time, don't forget, to line it up. None of these tripod nonsense. You're going to have a towel as a cheek rest and you've got to take a shot. That's what I want to say. Because it doesn't line up at all. No one bit. And notwithstanding that you've got that Kyle Cameron, that plain t-shirt, be buggered, plain clothes police officer on the roof in front of the Losi building, just there on that upper balcony, because he's filming. And yet someone who's a plainclothes police officer couldn't tell that the shot come from his, what would be, what was 4 o'clock? 10 o'clock? I don't know which way you want to do it. But as you turn, then given the clearance that you have of that roof, he would have been able to have seen someone running. So just, or anybody else for that matter, on that area, they'd have seen that figure. It wouldn't have been like, well, I don't know. One person managed to capture him. Have you seen how many people are on the steps and the walkway? Everybody could see that roof. And yet it's just, I had to think about it. Fucking Officer Dibble. I thought I seen someone running off. That's how we knew. Why are you sending a TPUSA member of staff in a light blue t-shirt, light blue jumper onto the roof then, guiding people? Why is that person gone on there? Surely that's a police matter. Bullshit. So anyway, I digress. Oh, I was doing so well. I'm staying on track. Okay, so we have the neurological events that cannot be related to anything to do with electrocution, cannot be anything to do with an explosive microphone. We have the trauma to the body, where you see the swelling, or mostly the majority of the left-hand side, the shoulder, the hand, and then the just rapid release of the trauma out of the left-hand side of Charlie's neck. Yeah. So these things would only occur with trauma into the left-hand side. Now, I don't know if there was 1 or 2 projectiles, because I have seen somewhere where there's 2 projectiles that go into the one area. I have something that could possibly back that up, but I've not really looked into that thus far, because I've just seen the one. But there is something that looks slightly peculiar that I noticed yesterday, that I'm like, right, I need to have a little look around to see if there's something that supports a DOS shot into the neck. But they're into the same area regardless anyway. So with this in mind, with regards to the drones, the images that I've put out in the videos, I know that it can be a little bit difficult to see the pixelation bloom, but the videos that I've put out, and the ones that I'll link into this one also, you can see this pixelation bloom underneath. So it drops and it goes into quite a chunky little section. And then as you notice that frame, especially if you put it into like a negative or change it into night vision or something, that you can actually see the whole scene pulse. And this is the energy that is being used to send this projectile towards Charlie. This energy blast is also supported then by the fact that on Frank's phone screen, you can see the drones. You can see it move around. You can see the drone that is inadvertently picked up on Dan Flood's arm, which I put my little experiment up where it shows that the light that is on the inside of Dan's arm could not ever have come from the outside, from the sunshine. It would have been what the one drone was catching the other. So bink, it had caught it, and that was the drone that was capturing the footage that you can see in the FPV, the first person view on Frank's phone. The fact that the drones then go offline is quite something to behold, because that relates into the fact that there are more than one drone. Oh my gosh, starting to get tired now from being ill. So yeah, quick recap with the drones. That what you'll notice, oh my god, that was the other thing. I think the dude's name is Justin. So the one that's all in black with the glasses, that carries Charlie, and he seems to be doing the most kind of CPR on to Charlie. Question, what is Dan Flood doing right here? What is all this violent movement about? For the life of me, I don't know what is being forced, what is being pushed, what is being done. And then you've got this really weird action of Rick Cutler kind of allowing this Justin to come in to tend to Charlie. I just find this whole thing really, really strange. And then when you see on this photo just here of Charlie being carried out, now I know there's been some talk about bruising and all the rest of it. I don't agree that that is bruising. And I'm trying desperately to try to find what was actually on the floor, because he does go down with a fucking thump to end all ages, you know? When Dan picks him up, you can just see, oh, I cannot cope with watching it. But these are the things we need to be looking at obviously to see the behaviours and whatnot. But I want to know, is there something that would have either been between Justin's arm and Charlie's torso? Because on Justin's arm, on one of the McClintock photos, when they're carrying out just to go into the sunshine of the walkway towards the car, on Justin's arm, there's like a light purple mass with what seems to be an imprint in this. And then you've got the lines where the blood has been on his arm and he's had it creased up for a sec, and then you've got one drop of blood. On Charlie's torso, he's got exactly the same pattern. He's got the exactly same indent on there that seems to go down the side of his body as well. It looks more like he was led on something with a pattern, because you know when you've like put your hand on something for a while and you take it off and then you've got the imprint. I think it looks like Charlie's been pressed, something's been pressed into, or Charlie's pressed down onto something with that pattern, because the same pattern is on Justin's arm as well. So I've tried to find something where there's a little bit more clarity from a different direction. Again, I've not spent a great deal of time on this. I've only just kind of come back into the explosive nature of the way in which Charlie physiologically and externally reacted to the what I feel one of it is a dart or some sort of munition going into his throat. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with this just now. I will put something out a little bit more intricate with a little bit more of the math if you want to see that. I just don't want to bog people down with too much information. Yeah, with the batteries and things as well, with the Rode wireless microphone. Yeah, I did look into Rode wireless microphones specifically, number 2. They're built with safety monitoring circuits, including negative temperature coefficients, NTC sensors, which automatically stop the battery from charging or discharging if it begins to overheat. So I don't know whether it is being premised that maybe the actual mic was interfered with, which made it so that it would explode. But the expanding gas phenomenon is when a LiPo battery in a wireless Go system fails. It typically undergoes a slow swelling and expanding gas event rather than a violent detonation. So it might pop the plastic casing or kind of move through this like visible smoke. But I personally can't see that in there. In fact, again, asterisk disclaimer, I've not looked into it properly just now, but I'm pretty sure you can see something square fall down to the bottom of his t-shirt after his hands have gone up. So that's kind of like my next investigation into this. I just wanted to jump on to show that why I wouldn't be in anything exploding on Charlie, in Charlie. He most certainly has not been shot from behind, unless there is additional kind of thing that I'm not seeing. What do you think? Without me getting too technical and starting to name muscles and bones, I've had to refrain from doing that, because that's something that I'm like, hold on. I'm just so that's just the way my mind works. So I'm trying to keep it very simple, very safe in my wording, because obviously we've not seen the autopsy. I don't want to be labeling muscles or saying like when someone said about the C2 as well was severed. If this was severed, Charlie's head would have been I don't even know how to put this in a really nice way. It wouldn't have felt or looked like it was attached to his body, and I don't know if it looked like it was very loose on his shoulders. I haven't seen that myself, but if you have, I would like to have that information also. There are certain things that you can look at in the individual to be able to ascertain what parts of the body has been affected, or what would have to be affected, as I've shown today, to produce the movements that are being exhibited by an individual. So this is what I see. Thank you for listening to me. I am going to go back to bed because the flu has hit the Isles of the UK. as every winter. And yeah, I need to kind of go and give my pillow some kisses. Thanks for listening. Yeah, drop something in the comments. I'm always happy to discuss. And if you have any other theories, if you see anything else, I'll see you in the comments. Thank you so much.